Pauly has decided to visit us tonight and share all of his knowledge and his wisdom on how it works. So, Pauly, thanks for being here, brother.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for you guys for being of service for this meeting and for this opportunity to be of service myself. So I really, really appreciate it. Nice to see everybody. I've been in meetings with some of you and some of you I have not. So hi, everybody. My name is Pauly, and I am a grateful recovering alcoholic and addict. Uh, I my sobriety date is, and I'm going to share you with you, not to impress you, but impress upon you that it's possible that you could do this too. And that is, my sobriety date is February 17th, 1989. I do have a sponsor, and my sponsor has a sponsor. So it's, that, and I annoy him on a regular basis. So that's what it's all about. But I really wanted to start before. The first thing I wanted to say was that how impressed I am with this meeting, and that it's going, and you guys are building such a platform. Everybody comes here every night ready to bring it, ready to work on recovery. And it's really awesome. I don't know how long this has been going on, 3-4 months now. It's just amazing what is growing here. And it's an honor to be part of it. So having to say that, I got this, for me, how it works, I'm really passionate about it, right? It's something that where I'm at, southeastern Wisconsin, we read before every meeting. And when I was traveling for a while, I had the honor to travel around the country, and I found that most meetings, not every meeting, but many, many meetings read this on a regular basis. And it was sort of one of these things that I've heard it, probably tens of thousands of times. I've read it myself thousands of times. And it gets to be one of those things that we come into these meetings, we get situated. Now we're getting situated with the Zoom, and people are just coming in, maybe catching the end of the readings and sliding in quietly into these meetings because you can. And that's great. I was taught, you're never late to an AA meeting, better late than never. So, but the point really for me about how it works and how important it is, I'm going to start with why. And it's, I think, even for, Bill W., who wrote it, and then it was edited with the first 100, they were really serious. And for me, it started way back. My first meeting was in 1980. I just got done celebrating. It was in June of 1980. I was 17 years old. I had just been institutionalized in a mental health institution in northern Wisconsin. And I was completely in survival mode. I had no clue what was going on. I had numbers printed on my clothes, and I was just a ward of the state and trying to figure out what was going on. I was being told that I was chemically dependent, and for years I've been told that I was the problem, that I was either possessed. When I talked to religious people, I was just a bad seed, all these things, but I was starting to believe it. And I knew that there was something seriously wrong. I had to make it through this program, or I was going to be incarcerated in a juvenile prison for a year if I didn't figure out how to stay in this program for 3 months. I didn't know anything about alcoholism. I didn't know anything about chemical dependency. I didn't know anything about anything. All I knew is that I was in serious, serious trouble because even though I was housed in a separate unit, I had to eat every day the 3 meals with all the other inmates of that institution. And they were either suffering from severe mental health issues, or they were under some serious, serious drugs like Thorazine and stuff like that. And at 17, in a way, it's traumatic. It's like I said, I was in survival mode. But about 3 days into it, of a sudden, after dinner, they tell us, well, you're going to go get in this van, change your clothes, and you go to a meeting. I'm like, I'm going to go to a meeting? What kind of meeting? You're going to go to an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. I'm like, sure, okay, whatever. I get out of here for the night. I'm good with that. I had no clue what Alcoholics Anonymous was. And it was in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, and we get to this place, and there's these long, it seemed like these never-ending set of stairs that went up this building, this old building, and we get to the top. There's a door. I open it up, and there's this really skinny but long room, and it just wide enough really to have like a dozen or half a dozen tables. I think it was maybe a half a dozen with chairs all around it, but no room. That pretty much filled up the space. And all these people of all ages, mostly older than me, all walked in and sat down. And the guy across from me, all of a sudden, he got quiet. And he started reading this thing called How It Works. I started listening. I had nothing to lose. And as I listened, and I don't know if anybody really remembers much about their first AA meeting ever, whether it was on Zoom or whether it was in person. Usually you're in such shock. I hear people talking, they walk away with nothing. But I walked away with two things out of that meeting, because after he was done reading and everybody started sharing, they started telling my story. They started telling my story. How did these people know me? Why did they think like me? Why did they act like me? When they said they started drinking, they couldn't stop and they got in trouble, just like me. And I walked out of there with two things. For the first time, I had hope that I wasn't possessed, that I wasn't going to live a life of incarceration, and that there was this thing called alcoholism that I was suffering from. It was a disease, and that it was okay, and I'd rather have a disease. And then there was this thing called How It Works, and all I knew is that was going to get me out. I had to follow that. That was going to get me out. I didn't know anything else. I don't even remember if I read out of the big book or what the share was about. I don't remember anything else. I just knew that whatever that thing was that they read is what I needed to learn. And I needed to incorporate it into my life, because for the first time in 17 years, somebody gave me an instruction manual on how to deal with what was going on in here. So that's why I'm so passionate. It's never failed me. I failed it. I struggled then for the next 9 years in and out. I didn't understand alcoholism, as we'll go through. I didn't follow it, but I always went back to it. I always knew there was the key. There was my relief valve. There was whatever you want to call it. I just had to figure out how to accept this and follow those simple instructions. So that's why I'm so passionate about it. And I really think it's important, because I think what Bill did, he originally wrote it. I have the original one too, but then they edited it, like I said, with the first 100, and they changed a few things about it, and it became what it became. But I think it really, for me, gives the essence of the program, the principles of the program, the idea of what Alcoholics Anonymous and recovery is all about. I was not a big reader. I have ADHD too. So for me to sit down and read, I know people have read the big book, first night after going to a meeting, sat down, read the whole thing. Not me. It took me years, a couple pages at a time to really go through it and to continue to go through it. But this How It Works, so I memorized it, and I really wanted to work on it. And I just love, when you think about it, how he starts it, how they started it, right? Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Those who do not recover cannot or will not give themselves to this simple program. That's what they're telling us right off the bat. It's really a simple program. It's not that difficult. And rarely do we see anybody fail. I mean, they've got 100 already. These people that jumped into it, that people that wanted to start doing it, that got into the program, they didn't fail if they thoroughly did what was asked for them. And I think that was the problem for myself too. And I see so many people struggling in recovery. Is how do you thoroughly do that? And then they go on to say, they're such unfortunates. They are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves, right? They're such unfortunates. They seem to have been born that way. So what is constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves? What does that mean? I know for a long time I thought Constitution, they just didn't understand what honesty really was, right? They were incapable of being honest, that they didn't have a foundation of honesty. And that seemed pretty simple. So all you have to do, and you hear it all the time, get honest. You just got to get honest with yourself. But if you look up the word constitutionally, right, it's a little bit different than constitutional. Constitutionally means unable to see the subtle gaps, the subtle changes, right? And I know in my own recovery, when I think about my relapses, and we talk about sobriety losing its priority, right? That's what a slip. When somebody goes out and relapses, a lot of times they call it a slip. Sobriety lost its priority. Why? All the stories when people come back are always the same. I stopped going to meetings. I stopped staying in touch. I didn't call my sponsor. I didn't read the book. And I didn't see the little subtle changes that was happening in my behavior. I was slowly pulling away. So all this time, I thought I was constitutionally capable of being honest when I wasn't. I was one of those constitutionally incapable of being honest those first 9 years of my recovery. And I can do it today. And I've done it in other areas of my life. It's called denial, I think, in a lot of ways. And what happens is, I call it errors in judgment. And I think the reason it happens is because the first time we make that error in judgment, or the first time I make that error in judgment, that first time I said, you know what, I don't really feel like going to my home group tonight. You know what, I'm not going to get a hold of my sponsor this week. And the world doesn't blow up, right? The world, I don't end up drunk that night. Everything doesn't fall apart, right? I wake up the next morning, I'm fine. It's like, okay, that wasn't so bad. So tomorrow, you know what? There's a baseball game on. I'm going to stay and watch the baseball game. And, I'll go to a meeting tomorrow after the baseball game. I wake up, nothing happens. I stay sober. And it just starts happening. Those errors in judgment. I'm not willing to thoroughly do the work, and before I know it, I'm off course. And before I know it, I'm out using. I think that's what happens. And like I said, they go on to say they're not at fault. They seem to have born that way. They are naturally incapable of grasping and developing a manner of living which demands rigorous honesty. I thought when I first got here that I thought I was honest. At different times I thought, man, this is honesty and this is what it looks like and all those things. But the truth is, what they're saying here is you got to grasp, right? You got to go to hold on to it, but then you got to develop it. That none of us came here perfectly honest. None of us do. It's a recovery. It's a journey. And just like my recovery, my love of honesty is something that I've learned through trial and error and winning and losing and consequences. It's like going, oh, okay, that's why they say that. So, but as long as I'm willing to grasp it, I got the idea. Okay, I got the idea that honesty is the best policy, and I'm willing to develop it. That's what they're saying here. They have to develop a manner of living which demands. I love that word. They didn't say that you need to be rigorously honest. You should think about being rigorously honest. Maybe your best bet is maybe you should be rigorously honest. They're saying it demands it. You got to have it. You got to do it. And they know, because if you're not rigorously honest, the only person you're hurting is yourself. They knew that. And they knew that this was a serious, serious disease. And if you didn't find that rigorous honesty, you were going to suffer the consequences of your actions. And then they go on to talk about how their chances are less than average if they can't find that. But there are those too who suffer grave emotional and mental disorders. But many of them do recover if they have the capacity to be honest, right? And I think if you had the privilege and honor, like I did of last night, watching the meeting, and you saw what that truth is, and that is, if you can find honesty, it doesn't matter how much trauma you've been through, doesn't matter your physical ailments, your emotional ailments, the disorders, whatever, the mental health dual diagnosis that you could bring in, ADHD, doesn't matter, schizophrenic disorders, doesn't matter. If you have the capacity to be honest and develop that honest, you too can recover. They knew that even in 1936, 37, when they were writing this, they already understood that. And I love how the opening, that first 3 paragraphs, that to me, right there, honesty 3 times in 3 different ways is the key to this program. And not honesty with you. I don't have to be honest with you. I don't have to be honest with my wife. I don't have to be honest with anybody else. Really, I have to be honest with me. I have to be honest about my shortcomings, my character defects, my thought patterns, and I have to be rigorously honest with myself where they're going to end up, where that slip is going to take me. And then I can move on in my recovery. And as they do in this procedure, in this writing, the next chapter or the next paragraph is, our stories disclose in a general way what we used to be like, what happened, and what our life is like now. I think they had such a heavy paragraph, that first one, that they just freaked you out with honesty so much. You wanted to remind you, hey, it's okay. It's really just about who we were, what happened, and what we are like now. Don't get scared. It's going to be all right. But if you have decided you want what we have, what did they have? What do people have when you come to the meetings? What is it that you saw, maybe in your sponsor or in the people that draw you to the meetings? What do they have? What did this first 100 have? If you read the foreword in the big book, in the first edition, it says what they had. It said, the first 100, have recovered from a hopeless state of mind and body. What they had was hope. What they had was their health back. What they had was their life back. That's what they had. They had a way out. They had become functioning members of society once again. So if you want what we have, is what they're saying. This is what we have. We have hope. We have life. We have connection. And are willing to go to any length to get it. That becomes the scary part. Are you willing to go to any length to get it? Then you are ready to take certain steps. They're starting to introduce you that there's steps, there's things you got to do. If you want what we have, if you want to get that sense of hope and sense of meaning. But some of these we balked. Then they go, wait a minute. They tell us they're honest people. Some of us, we balked. What is balk? I mean, if you follow baseball, anybody knows a balk in baseball is when a pitcher acts like he's going to go to home plate, but then changes direction. And that's what it is. The definition of a balk is to stop short, to refuse to proceed. Whoa, that was me. That was me when I first got here. Stop. No, man, that's way too much. I like the first step. I like the 12th step, but all that other stuff in between, balk, nope. I ain't doing it. And come to find out, even some people in the first 100 felt the exact same way, right? They were like, whoa, this is crazy. This is serious. This is hard. This is real stuff, But then they go on to tell you that we thought we could find an easier and softer way. They wanted it too, just like me. I think we always are looking for the easier, softer way. It took me 9 years. I did not want to be an alcoholic. I fought it with every tooth and nail, everything, kicking, screaming, scratching. It ain't fair. It ain't fair. It ain't right. How come everybody can drink and I can't? Blah, 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 blah. Until I showed up and there was nowhere else to go. Nothing else to do. I was beaten, broken, and busted, man. That was it. This turned out to be the easier, softer way. With all the earnestness at our command, we beg of you to be fearless and thorough from the very start. That's the next line. They didn't ask, hey, or suggest, hey, we think maybe you should try to be more confident and you should think about it and maybe you could do it. No, they know this is life and death. They know it. They knew it. They had seen it. So they were willing to beg you. They're saying, we beg of you. And they chose these words. They went through this. They edited. They chose these words. They're saying, we beg you to be fearless and thorough from the very start. Some of us tried to hold on to our old ideas. Once again, they're going back. They're sharing their experience, strength, and hope with you right off the bat. But the result was nil until we let go. Absolutely. Absolutely. They're telling you, hey, this is us. We've been there, done that. This is it. We tried to hold on to our old deals. We tried to have that easier, softer way, but it's not there. It's not there. You got to let go. You got to let go of what you think you knew, or I had to let go of what I thought I knew, who I was, and where I was going. And I had to be willing to follow. Because remember, we're dealing with alcohol. Cunning, baffling, and powerful. And many people would like to add patient, because it doesn't matter how long you've been sober, doesn't matter how long you've gone to meetings, doesn't matter anything. I found out myself, I've seen it in other people, it's still sitting there like a bottle of wine fermenting, just waiting to be opened. And it can be patient. It'll wait years and decades if for you to pick it back up. If you're not going back and being constitutionally honest with yourself and watching for those subtle changes to make sure that you continue to stay on the path. Without help, it is too much for us. There you go. They're telling you got to have help with this. It's telling me, you need help, Pauly. You cannot do this by yourself. But there is one who has all power. That one is God. May you find him now. What I found interesting there is that they tell you have to find God, but they don't tell you what God is, right? This is not a religious program. I just saw some stuff on Facebook, some questions. And of course, you see all the debates about, whether it's a religious program and, foundation in Christian principles and this and that. And, there's no doubt that there are people in recovery in AA that have Christian backgrounds, that have Christian views. And yes, some of them bring them into the meetings, but that's not what this was. This is a spiritual program, and they try to point that out. And they're telling you here, we want you to find him. We're not gonna bring you to God. We're not gonna tell you what God is, but we are telling you that you have to find a God. You have to find a good orderly direction. You have to find a group of drunks. You have to find whatever it is, a set of principles that's outside yourself that will help you through these times and through this struggle. And I think that's what's so important and what's so unique about Alcoholics Anonymous. And one of the reasons why I've been able to stay here through all these years is that I've got to find my own beliefs, and other people get to find their own beliefs. And I've seen plenty of atheists recover just fine because they've been able to do the principles of the program. Goes on to say, half measures avail us nothing. It's telling me I can't half measure it. I can't do it. I'm either in or I'm out. I can't do it one way or the other. We stood at the turning point. We asked his protection and care with complete abandon, right? And I think that's really that there's a key. That first half right there, what they did in that first half is they told us it was about honesty, and then it was about surrender. That we had to let go. That we can't do it. If you got honest with yourself, you're going to find out that you can't do this. You got to find help. And not only do you got to find help somewhere outside yourself, you got to completely let them do it. You got to be all in 100%. There's no reservations. And what I agree with that, and what I see, and sometimes just like with the honesty, is something that you got to work on and you got to build. I got to admit, like I said, I wasn't there 100%. It took me a lot of trials and errors, and it's like going to the gym, and you got to continue to build that muscle, and you got to build that willingness, but you got to do it. You got to do it. This is life and death. So for me, that's why it's so important. I'm gonna just skip right over the step parts. I mean, we all know the steps and read them. And if I went step by step, I'd turn this into a 3-hour seminar, and I don't think we need that. When we get to the second part, I love the second part just as much as the first. It goes on to start out, and it says, "Many have exclaimed, 'What an order! I can't go through with it.' I used to sit in a meeting for a while with a gentleman that would use a different, I think it's the term, reflection on it as he spoke. When he read it, and I never knew if he was reading it to be a joke or if it was a Freudian thing or what, but he would read it like, 'Many of us exclaim, 'What? An order? I can't go through with that.'" And people would laugh. And I thought it was funny too, until one day I showed up and I asked where he was. And he no longer was around. And he had died of this disease in an active fashion, that he had gone back out to drinking. And I thought to myself, it was funny, but it reflects back. And I'm not saying we can't be funny in this program, but was that his own way of saying balking? Was that his own way of putting up that wall? I'm not going to go that far. This is as far as I'm going to go. And then, his loss was something I could learn from. I don't know. Was it coincident? I don't know. But I know what I feel, and I wasn't in the first 100. I know I may look like I might have been there, but I was not there. I think what they were trying to say, I think the inflection that they were saying was, many of us exclaim, "What an order! I can't go through with it." They're saying, man, what a huge endeavor. What a big, broad mountain to climb. What a set of principles. What a set of ideals. Can I live up to them? Can I do that? Can I actually be that kind of person? Can I apply those principles and live to those standards? I think that's what they were trying to say. So they went on to say, don't be discouraged. Don't be discouraged. No one among us have been able to maintain anything like perfect adherence to these principles. We are not saints. The point is, we are willing to grow along spiritual lines. We claim spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. And that goes on to tell me this is a journey. That's what that's telling me. That's telling me, hey, you're never going to be perfect. And I've heard people say the only step you can work perfect is step 1 if you didn't pick up. Well, that's true. I agree. Unless you worked white knuckled it all day. If you're sitting there just, chewing your fingernails out, pulling your hair out, wanting to drink, but not drinking, I think then you need to really start taking a look, at step 1. But for the most part, the only step that I could ever work perfectly, and I did so far today, is not pick up. Everything else, I'll fall short. I'll never work it perfect. And that's okay. That's okay. Because it's about progress, not perfection. It's about learning each day and trying to be a little bit better. One of the things I've learned in recovery and learned on the program is that, the key to life and the recovery to me is not what I'm getting in recovery. It's who am I becoming? Because if I become the kind of person that I really want to be, if I'm able to incorporate these principles into my program and into my life, then ultimately I'll get what I want to get. I'll get what I deserve. I'll reap what I sow, and I'll find the happiness, the joy, the freedom, the serenity that I'm looking for. Something that I didn't understand, was the importance that it was, this progress, and that we're claiming that, it goes back to, once again, the constitutionally capable of being honest with myself and understanding that this is all a process in my recovery. And that is, so many things, whether there was my relapses, whether it was even when I went to, the causes of and the consequences of my relapses. One of them was going to prison. I didn't go to prison that night for what I did that night. That started 6-8 months earlier when I picked up that drink again. All those kind of things, when I start living a life based on principles, and that's what they were saying here, that we claim spiritual principles, and understanding that these 12 steps that were before this paragraph is saying, are 12 principles that I can incorporate in all aspects of my life. So that I can be rigorously honest about my marriage. I can be rigorously honest about my career. I can learn to be rigorously honest about my health. These are principles that I can apply in everything I do, and then therefore I'll reap the benefits of it. Goes on near the end here. It goes, our description of the alcoholic, the chapter of the agnostic, and our personal adventures before and after made clear 3 pertinent ideas. So that goes back to the big book, that we were alcoholic and could not manage our own lives, which is step 1. Simply said, I'm the problem, right? I'm the problem. And I knew that I was the problem, but the problem was the alcoholism. The problem wasn't that I was a bad person. The problem wasn't that I was an evil person. The problem was that I was a sick person, and I needed to get healthy. B, that probably no human power could have relieved our alcoholism, right? I suffer from alcoholism. Not alcoholism, alcoholism. An internal spiritual malady, I, self, and me, and no human power, not of my own will, no individual, I cannot think my way out of this. My best thinking got me to the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. My best thinking is not going to get me out of it. I have to. So step 2 simply says that I am not the solution, right? So we got step 1, step 2, and that God could and would if he were sought. So what that tells me is I need to find a good orderly direction outside myself, whether it's a spiritual being, whether it's a supernatural being, whether it's a group of drunks, whether it's a good orderly direction, but it has to be something that has to be done outside myself. Once again, I can't think my way back into health and wealth and recovery. Not on my own. I need to be guided. I needed to share. I need to follow these principles. I need to incorporate help into my daily life and move forward. Throughout all this time that I've been in recovery, I've never seen, I like to say, I never seen anybody, for lack of a better word, too dumb to get this program. But I've seen a lot of people too smart to get it. And the worst, and I was one of them for those 9 years. I thought, like I said, I could think my way out of it. I thought that I could figure my way out of it, that I had all the excuses. And I've seen a lot of good people lose their lives to this program. People that were professionals, people that had PhDs, that were just incredibly, in every other aspect of their life, productive individuals. But for whatever, they were alcoholism. They couldn't beat it. They couldn't beat it. And their own intelligence, their own, accomplishments got themselves in the way of getting the help that they needed. They were unable to be constitutionally honest with themselves. They were incapable of seeing those subtle changes that happened when they picked up the drugs and alcohol, and when they started down those processes and down that road that eventually led to their own demise. And so that's why I keep coming back. That's why I have this so close to my recovery and close to my heart. And that's why I practice these principles to the best of my ability every single day, because I know how serious this is. I know that this is a disease that I have, that even though I'm in remission because I haven't picked up, doesn't mean that I don't have it. So I really hope that this was something that you guys got out of it. I really hope maybe that the next time that people are reading it, or when you get to that part in the big book, you take a little bit of time and really think about what they were trying to say here, because I think it's really, really, really important. And I think for me, one of the things too is when I'm out there in the world and life is happening to me, for me, this is something I draw back on, just these sayings. Remember, Pauly, don't half measure it. Remember, Pauly, nobody fails if they thoroughly follow the path. Remember, it's about honesty. Get honest. So these are it's like flashcards. They go in front of my eyes, in front of my brain to redirect me in times of need. So I'm hoping that maybe a little bit of studying, maybe these could become flashcards that you guys could use in your own recovery. And then you guys can come back and share with me all the great things that are happening in your lives as this meeting is going to continue to grow and prosper, because it's got a solid foundation. So I thank you very much, and I will pass with that.
Thank you so much, Pauly. We are so blessed and so grateful that you took time. I know what a busy, busy person you are, and that you are able to spend the evening with us when you could be with your wife and doing things that, we know what we put aside to be here with our ass in this seat. And I am just, wow. The people that I've come in contact with in this program just blow my mind. And you, my friend, are at the top of the list. And I just got to tell you, Pauly, listening to you break it down reminded me of when I was in treatment and we would have our big book studies. I loved them because it's not like a big book AA meeting. It is just like you did. I mean, every word was broken down, the sentences. Because I honestly, if I don't think, for me personally, I would have gotten a fourth of what I got out of treatment that I would have gotten if I was sitting in an AA meeting, because it's just like, it would just, me, it kind of went right over my head. But just to have it broken down and explained like that, I loved it. And that's just what it reminded me of, you doing that. And I am so grateful that you did that for us. And one last thing before I open up the meeting, I had to laugh because it's taken me 3 days shy of 2 years to finally know what balked means. Because I always, when I say it every single day, I always thought it meant like bitch. Some of these we bitched. But thank you for, I hope I'm probably the only person that did not know that. But thank you, Pauly. I'm just so grateful, and I'm speaking for everybody like I always do.